Fiora became from the most broken unit during the set 6 PBE phase to the worst 4-cost unit at the beginning of the set. And finally, after many buffs, I can tell that right now she is strong, but greatly underestimated. Many people still value Yone much more than Fiora, and are here to say that she needs to be put in a spotlight. One of the main reasons she is underestimated is because most people didn't really figure out the answers to these questions. What comp should I play around her? How am I supposed to stuff her? And how the heck do I position her so she doesn't get clapped? I will cover everything in this video, starting with the hidden win condition. What if I told you that Fiora has some similarities with Urgot? While obviously both 4-cost carries are required to be full stuff in order to claim a top 1, it is often not enough. You may already know the real win condition for Urgot is finding the key 5-cost units like Tankang, Yuumi and Jinx. For Fiora, the real win condition is to find Jace, Yuumi, Kai'Sa and even Galio if you play Socialite. I'm going to give you a bit more details later, but Fiora is good enough to only stabilize your level 8 board in order to push level 9 and find your 2-star 5-cost units, especially now after the change of the 5-cost odds at level 8 and level 9. The second win condition is about positioning. You have to consider Fiora like an assassin, and there is a huge difference of power between a well-positioned Fiora and a poorly positioned Fiora, and I'm going to show it to you at the one more tips section. There are many variations around Fiora, and I think this is one of the real strengths of the Fiora comp, because it's not exactly like Urgot or Lux, where you don't really have a choice about the units you want to play around Fiora. Here you have a lot of choices, and I'm going to cover the 3 main comps around that. For the first variation, but also the strongest one, Fiora will become an academy thanks to an emblem that you can either make or find. If you play this variation, you can definitely stuff Yone as a main carry or as a side carry. It will all depend on your available items. You can also decide to put the academy spot on Kai'Sa instead of Fiora and play Kai'Sa as your main carry for the very late game upgrades. The other most known build around Fiora is Socialite. Socialite provides healing, so you can build her with more offensive items like Infinity Edge, Gauntlet. Also, if you can't have a Socialite augment, you can remove Taric in order to put Blitzcrank to increase the tankiness of your Colossus. And finally, the third variation, which is overall less dependent on your augment and still has a pretty good late game scaling. Again, the idea is to stabilize your board at level 8 with Fiora in order to push level 9 to find your 5-cost unit, which will be your side carries. If you want to have the cheat sheets I personally made, you can find it on Tacter. The link will be in the description and you can have access to a lot of information for free. I think Fiora is the most disturbing carry in terms of best in slot items. Apart from the academy spot and maybe some Ornn items, what build is truly the best on her? And in order to answer this question, I just did theory craft with mathematics. So I have made a spreadsheet to calculate the maximum potential damage can deal in a full DPS cycle in a 4 challenger setup. By full DPS cycle, it means that she starts with 0 mana and attacks enough time in order to fill her mana and then cast her spell. The goal is not necessarily to find the best in-slot items, but rather to truly understand the value of each specific item for Fiora. For instance, is AD more valuable than AP? Is it better to have more AD flat or maybe armor reduction with Last Whisper? In order to keep this video short, I'm going to give you the results immediately. But if you're curious to look at all the details, I will link the spreadsheet in the description. If Fiora targets a squishy unit with 30 armor, and then we assume that Hand of Justice is always giving the offensive bonus and not the healing bonus, then the 2 best builds are Infinity Edge, Gauntlet, Hand of Justice, and Shojin, Infinity Edge and Gauntlet. The third best build, which is very close, is Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, and Hand of Justice. If Fiora targets a unit with 100 armor or more, then the best build is Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, and Hand of Justice by far. If this surprises you, like it did to me, then it means 2 things. Firstly, it means that we tend to focus too much on the true damage Fiora can pull, while she actually deals much more damage from her basic auto and her spell. Second, Shojin is actually one of her best items according to this spreadsheet because she has so much attack speed, so she can get a lot of mana and cast very often. So, in the end, she benefits more from her true damage, the healing part of the spell, and also the fact that she drops the aggro very often. I remember how we were debating about Shojin on Aphelios during set 5, and I think we can have something similar with Fiora for this set. Okay, so now, how do we actually build her? The theory is interesting, but we all know that Fiora can lose a lot of DPS if she gets CC'd, and also she can get a lot of mana from taking damages. So if we take that into account, we can think that maybe Shojin is not as valuable as the spreadsheet shows it. Something is important to remember is that Fiora is a unit who needs to have healing, either from Socialite, an item, or an augment. Even though her spell can heal her, this is definitely not enough in order for her to become a hyper carry. So if you don't have any form of healing, Hand of Justice and Bloodthirster rank high in this tier list item, but if you have already healing through 3 Socialite or Celestial Blessing for instance, then you can decide to build QSS, which is in my opinion the best defensive item as long as you know how to position Fiora so she doesn't get one shot. If you want to play Fiora, you need to understand that your strategy is to rush the level 8 and stabilize before pushing level 9 to add many 5-cost units. That is why you will always play Strongboard from stage 2 to stage 4. We are getting close to the end of set 6, and if you watch regularly my videos, I believe that you have all the necessary tools and knowledge in order to push level 8 very fast with a strong board and a good econ. If you are still struggling, I have an early game guide and a leveling and econ guide which cover everything you need to know to play comps like Fiora, Jhin, Lux and so on. Even if I just keep the early and mid game explanation, I still believe it's very important I spend some time on your level 8 because this is where you need to make the decision whether you can push 9 or keep on rolling in order to potentially save your game. When you roll a level 8, you will mainly look for 4-cost units, because with the nerf of the 5-cost odds at level 8, it becomes unreliable to look for units like Yuumi, Kai'Sa or Jace. Consider them as good bonuses if you hit them, but it's okay if you don't hit them because your goal is to push level 9 as long as you win your fights at level 8. The idea is to roll until you find this comp or something similar with every unit being 2 stars. The only rule is to roll until that moment, whether you spend 30 gold or 100 gold. Once you found the units, you can consider either to push level 9 or try to 3-star Fiora if she is uncontested, or you can also roll for 5-cost units because you are almost dead and you will never have the time to push level 9. As usual, if you like this video and you find this information useful, please put a like on this video, it helps me a lot. Also, the set 6.5 Neon Knights is going to come very soon on PBE, so please tell me in the comments if you're interested if I make some kind of videos about theory craft or other kind of topic. Many players think that their main weakness is positioning, and I can tell you that Fiora can be sometimes challenging. I said earlier that there is a way to position Fiora like an assassin. What I meant is that you can position her so she directly goes to the backline while completely ignoring the front line, like how I'm getting ignored on Tinder. What? If you know how to position Irelia from set 3 or set from set 5, then this positioning will be familiar. If not, then I'm going to show you how to do the trick. If you face a team who has only 1 or 2 units in the front line, you need to position 3 melee units directly in front so Fiora will get body blocked and she won't be able to find a path to that tank. Instead, she will look for another path and this usually leads to the backline. By positioning that way, she can totally ignore the tanks and she can directly assassinate the squishy targets thanks to her burstly DPS from her spell. It takes a bit of practice and you need to scout a lot in order to pull this regularly. But I'm going to say this, the reason people don't know how to position it is simply because they don't know how to scout. If you know how to consistently position your Fiora, then you will need less defensive items on Fiora and you can build her with more offensive items. It's riskier, but when it works, she slashes through everything. Alright, I hope this video will make you realize how Fiora can be powerful if you know how to use her full potential. Also, don't forget that after the nerf of the level 8 holds, your real top 1 condition is to reach level 9 and assist Fiora with the Kai'Sa 2, Jace 2 and Yuumi 2 at the very least. With that being said, see you at the top of the ladder.